Fortnite Battle Royale. Fortnite's narrative? The storytelling in this game has always been very captivating to me. It's what I would call a decentralized transmedia narrative. I'm going to tell you why I think it's so special, and how it represents a shift into a new era of experiencing stories. But before we go there, I'm going to cover a brief history of Fortnite Battle Royale. In 2017, a video game company called Epic Games was working on their newest title, a role-playing shooter called Fortnite. Epic had seen the success of the sort of building creativity genre of games like Minecraft and Terraria, and they wanted to merge it with the already established shooter genre. So take that little nugget and sit on it for a minute. Now let's back away from Epic Games and look at the wider gamer sphere at this time. A new genre is starting to take the world by storm, the Battle Royale. To understand what Battle Royale is, we're going to take a look at the 1999 novel titled Battle Royale. A group of teenagers are forced onto a remote island and fight to the death until one remains. Now, let's look at one of the most popular Battle Royale games in 2017, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Players drop onto a remote island in groups of 100 and fight to the death until one remains. If that sounds familiar, that's because the 1999 novel is regarded as the creator of the term Battle Royale. Now take that piece of information and zoom back in on Epic Games in 2017. They're in the middle of working on their new construction/shooter/zombie game, and they see the Battle Royale genre starting to rise up around them. So they do what any company would do in their situation. As mentioned previously, one of Fortnite's original intentions was to blend this sort of construction genre with the shooter genre. So, when they started making Fortnite Battle Royale, they didn't leave that behind. They made it one of their primary selling points for the game. In some trouble? Build some cover. Got a mountain right in front of you, blocking your path? Make a ramp. Okay, water break. That was kind of a lot of background information. Roadmap. Builder/shooter in development. Another genre becomes popular. The builder/shooter starts a second project in that genre to capitalize on it. Simple. Another thing to note at this time, Fortnite Battle Royale was free to play from the get-go. But this other popular Battle Royale, PUBG, was not, at least at this time. So that was another great reason for players to hop on Fortnite. You're probably wondering now, how does the term decentralized transmedia narrative fit into this? Great question. I'll lead into that by telling you about my experience with Fortnite Battle Royale. So, in 2018, I downloaded Fortnite on my Nintendo Switch. It was free to play, so I felt like I had nothing to lose. I had definitely seen some stuff about it online, and I knew I had a few friends that were playing it. But this was my first real experience with a multiplayer shooter game, so I was a little out of my element. I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly interested either. I grew up with Mario and I grew up with Link, and I was used to games that had a narrative that was driving everything forward. My first Fortnite matches were missing that, and it didn't really inspire me to continue. Or so I thought. A couple weeks after my first Fortnite games, something very interesting happened. Season 4 of Fortnite ended. A video was uploaded to YouTube. A video with a character. They gave an explanation for the changes being made to the map and the new features being added in the season. That sounds like story. That sounds like a narrative unfolding. I was very intrigued by this, and it only got more interesting from there. Later on in Season 5, a very compelling mystery began developing. A giant purple cube just kind of appeared out of nowhere. The community quickly named this cube Kevin. To add to the mystery, the cube would move around the map, occasionally popping up in a different location than you'd be expecting. A very unique part of this story that's unfolding is the way it's implemented into the game. You're still playing a Battle Royale, you're still dropping onto the island with 99 other players and fighting to be the last. But every now and then, something in the environment changes or develops, feeding you with a little more curiosity. Lunchtime in middle school started to look a little more like this, having very serious discussions about theories of Kevin's origins. This type of storytelling thrives on community engagement. Confusing events are brought to life by the speculation within the group that's experiencing it. So here comes a big one: transmedia narrative. Breaking this down, we've got trans, meaning across or beyond, media being our medium through which we're telling a narrative. So, a story being told across multiple mediums. A great example of a transmedia narrative is Star Wars. Star Wars' universe has been expanded upon by books, movies, TV shows, action figures, and theme parks, a hotel. Fortnite has this too, with its in-game live events, evolving map, social media posts, cinematics, and even some comics. Fortnite is a transmedia narrative, but with a twist. It's also non-linear and decentralized. It goes, here's a video about this interdimensional portal on YouTube, and oh look, now there's a cube on the island. You're welcome to try to examine this and put the pieces together, or you could just ignore it and keep playing the game. Let's take a look at a secondary source. According to Marcus Carter, Kyle Moore, Jane Mavoa, Heather Horst, and Luke Gaspard, children increasingly treat games like Fortnite not just as entertainment, but as social ecosystems. Spaces where they share, interpret, and build stories across various platforms. This supports the idea that Fortnite's non-linear storytelling invites ongoing speculation and participation, rather than just offering a fixed interpretation. The concept of a transmedia fragmented narrative isn't necessarily new, though. A great example originating from a similar time is the Five Nights at Freddy's video game series. I'd argue it leads into that transmedia element even more. It's become somewhat of a media franchise. The Five Nights at Freddy's narrative is so ambiguous that I'm pretty sure there isn't much that the entire community agrees on. Another piece of media that works in a similar way is the TV show Lost. Though it has more of a centralized narrative it's following, Lost constantly leaves room for wonder, leading to constant theorizing from viewers. There is another very important piece of Fortnite Battle Royale's community-focused narrative that I haven't covered yet: the live events. In my opinion, these are the most special part of Fortnite's storytelling, and it makes it the most unique. There have been a ton of live events in Fortnite over the years. There have been concerts. I remember there being a Marshmello concert and a Travis Scott concert. They were something. They were interesting. For me, the live events that had the biggest impact were the narrative-focused ones. They would be this huge thing, and they would be the culmination of the cutscenes, the evolving map, and the community theorizing that had been leading up to them. There would typically be a big countdown to these events, so you would know exactly when to tune in to see it. You would join a Battle Royale game like usual, except this time you would experience a cutscene unfolding from your perspective. As a late middle schooler at the time, these events were actually insane. Suddenly, that map that's slowly been changing throughout the month is moving in real time right before your eyes. The events would mark a turning point for the story. They'd also introduce new game features, and they would give an explanation for the new changes that were being made around the map. Of all the live events that I saw in Fortnite, though, one of them stood out to me as the most epic. In my opinion, the end was the most significant live event in Fortnite's narrative. Just from the title, you can tell that it holds a lot of significance. For me, the end event was the climax of about a year and a half of Fortnite business. I'd seen interdimensional portals, I'd seen the Ice King, shout out to the Ice King, volcanic excavation, there was a war between these two giant mechs, there's the Cube, of course, Kevin the Cube. For the events leading up to the end event, all you need to know is a meteor is headed towards the island. It's going to hit the island, but this sort of magical time-bending force is keeping it suspended above the island, keeping it from crashing into and destroying the island. So that's kind of the context before the event. A big meteor is suspended in place right above the island. Oh, what's going to happen? So here it is. I'm not going to show the event in full because it's really long, but here's the gist. and boom, the world was sucked into a black hole. And if you booted up your game during this time, you would just see a dark screen with that ominous black hole in the middle. I remember after it happened, just kind of sitting there like, I really wondered to myself if they had just ended one of the most popular video games during the peak of its hype. I realized that would never happen. The game was back within like 3 or 4 days, but I think that would have been so cool if they did. That's why I think Fortnite is so special. It changed my understanding of what a narrative could be by being vague and decentralized, letting the community come together to make a sense of the seemingly disconnected events that were happening. And it does all of that inside of a video game whose core gameplay has nothing to do with the story being told. You could play that game for years without really caring about why the map is changing or why new characters are being introduced. But for me, I was constantly sort of stopping the game to just go and explore the island and try to get clues as to where the story was going. Whether it's something transmedia that's jumping across mediums, or a narrative that's more community driven, asking people to come together to try to put things together, I just love seeing it in other games and other mediums. Anytime that there's a piece of art that leaves space for people to come together and, try to figure it out, that's just really cool to me. So thanks for listening to me talk about Fortnite. If anything I said in here made you think, hey, that actually sounds pretty similar to this other thing that I know, let me know. Also, what art pieces have you experienced that, changed your perspective on something? Thank you.